Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of More to Explore. Today, we are highlighting the important work of service dogs, and more specifically, Great Danes as service dogs. Today, we're going to meet one of our newest partners, the Northeast Canine, and also hear a story from Hoodsy, the Great Dane, and how he's made an impact in his human's life. And then, of course, we have a ton of updates with Egg Watch. And last but not least, we have a sneak preview of the newest cam here on Explore.org. So let's get to it. My name is Brian Bird, and joining me once again is the one and only Mike Fitz. Mike, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. No matter where you happen to be around the world, I'm happy to be here today. Uh, and if you're new to Explore.org, welcome to the community. Of course, welcome back to all of our longtime viewers. We're the world's largest live nature cam network with about 190 live cameras all over the world. If you have questions, comments for us during the program today, drop those in the chats. We'll be looking for them as we head along throughout the broadcast. Right now, we're looking at, I think, Brian, this is live, right? This is Northeast Canine Live?
Yep, this is their live cam right now.
Okay, yeah. So this is, I think these puppies are about a month old or so. So they've grown quite a lot since they were born. And we're going to see them growing a lot more. Great Danes being such a large dog, they grow extremely rapidly. Uh, and so if you've been watching this camera or other cameras, let us know in the comments along with your questions. So we're looking forward to watching this camera this week and a bunch of others. And as Brian mentioned, we have two interviews about service dogs to share. Dogs have been a trusted companion of humanity for many thousands of years. And the social nature and intelligence of dogs makes them uniquely suited to help people in numerous ways. Northeast Canine is a nonprofit organization located in New Hampshire that specializes in breeding and training Great Danes to support veterans and first responders. The journey from puppy to service dog, though, only happens through the work of dedicated trainers, such as those that you find at Northeast Canine. And I was curious to learn more about their process, so I spoke with Megan Cocaras, the founder and lead trainer for Northeast Canine, and Devin Diberto, a board member and trainer from Northeast Canine. Here is our conversation. Megan and Devin, so glad to speak with you. I'm really looking forward to learning more about your dogs and your process.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here and answer your questions.
So first one, real simple one. I don't have any experience with service dogs or training service dogs. I'm wondering, how did you get involved in that business of training service dogs?
Yeah, so basically, it started way back. I nannied for a family for a few years, and they had a bunch of Great Danes, and I just really fell in love with the breed. And so they informed me of where they got their Great Danes from. So I went to that place, and I volunteered there for a while. And then I worked there for about 15 years. That's actually where the two of us met. And then we decided I think it was 2020. Yeah, 2020 to start our own 501c3. So here we are now.
And we've been focusing on the Explode.org Northeast Canine Cam on one dog in particular so far, Rosie and her litter of pups. So can you introduce us to Rosie and her family?
Yeah. So we imported Rosie from Romania probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So she lives with one of our trainers, Maggie, and she has 4 other dog siblings. She's super sweet, super smart, very goofy kind of girl. And she gave birth to a litter of 7 puppies this past Thursday.
And the puppies, of course, are just beginning their journey in life and for their service work. So what process do you follow to socialize the puppies so that they can begin training as a service dog?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, we start with a lot of handler awareness at like a young age. We introduce spoon feeding to them. So you can kind of get them to slow down and make eye contact and engage with us a little bit more once they get their bellies off the ground and they can actually move around. They don't look like drunken little sailors. So once they're up and moving around, we introduce the spoon feeding to them, which kind of starts the bonding process with us and them. And then it starts name recognition and all that fun stuff. So that's basically where it starts. And then from there, we go into like confidence building and obedience training. And then after all that is kind of under their belt, that's when we then bring them out into public and start the public access.
And then in general, what type of temperament is required for a dog to become a service dog? You know, dogs are individuals. They have different personalities, just like people. So what are you kind of looking for in an ideal service dog?
Definitely confidence would be number one. And then calm and stable would probably be the top three things. But confident, social, all those things that really keep them balanced and wanting to work too. Because some of them don't want to work and don't want to have a job.
Lazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a dog at home who I love very much, but she just wants to chase things. Like that is her deal. And
So we can't really
Can't no on her.
Yeah, yes, we can't really have that. They have to be, focused and willing to do the job. We don't like to force any dog into the job that doesn't want to do it. So if that's the case, if we come across that type of dog, we'll find a different job for it, whether it's like a therapy dog or a facility dog or just like with one of our volunteers. So.
And it seems like even with the right temperament, service dogs, they need a lot of special training to do their job well. So what type of service work are Great Danes suited for? I mean, they're a big breed of dog. Anybody who's ever been next to a Great Dane, it's like, wow, that's a big animal. So what are you focusing on with your Great Danes?
So our Great Danes are focused on like balance work for them. So instead of a cane or a walker, people would hold on to their harness for balance and mobility, help them up and down curbs, stairs, preventing falling. And even if they do fall, they can use that dog to brace on it to get up off the ground. So ours are basically like giant anchors for people with mobility issues. So, and we focus more on veterans and first responders, but we do try and help as many people as we can.
In the training process for your Great Danes, how long does that last before a dog can graduate and get partnered with someone who needs them?
It's about a year and a half. Some take a little bit longer, and then some at right a year are ready to go. But I'd say a year and a half typically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, okay, so much shorter than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a bit longer.
Some take longer than others, though. So.
Okay.
Yeah, this is back to the special dogs. So.
And do you have a favorite part of the training process?
So we were both actually talking about this question beforehand. We were like, our favorite part of training the dogs, like, and there's so many different aspects in this job. Like some parts are a lot of fun and then some parts are messy and we're just like, why are we doing this? But I think we both kind of agreed that our favorite part is matching with their new partner. So once we put all that hard work into their training, it's like that moment of when you go through all the training with the dog and you're taking them out in public and working with them as a team and trying to get them used to having this extension of their body to help them move around. It's that moment when they walk away with the dog and the dog doesn't turn around and look back at us, looking for us or for guidance, when they just like move forward as a unit. It's really
gave me the chills when she just said
it's definitely bittersweet for sure. I mean, we've raised these dogs up from puppies, as you see now on the live cam, to full grown adults, and we just entrust in all these people and our recipients and our applicants that they're just fabulous people and they do wonderful things with our dogs. So we couldn't be more happy.
Yeah, can you talk more about that experience? What does it feel like when you've trained a dog, you've raised it from a puppy, you probably have a close bond with it, and then you've matched them to a person, and that again that the dog is walking away to its the next part of its life. What's that feel like for you?
I would say, like we said, the one word I always put with is bittersweet. Like, okay, we did this. We know they're going to do a great thing. We're going to miss them. And there's ones more than others that we miss more than others. Sure. Sometimes two that are a little bit harder. But we get so close with the applicant and their new person that it kind of just all fits together perfectly.
Yeah, and we're definitely like we always tell people, like, you're part of our family now. Like every time we go to leave after we do like the owner agreement and we're there training with them for like 5 to 6 days, we're like, great. And they're just like, it's not goodbye, it's see you later, like all that stuff. So we're just really one big family for sure.
And I know a lot of people are looking forward to watching Rosie's family grow and mature over time. So what can we expect to see coming up during the next few weeks or maybe across the next year on the Northeast Canine Camp?
Well, the next couple of days, I'd say.
I would say over
a week. Their eyes and ears will start to open. And then a couple weeks after that, they'll start not just crawling across on their bellies. Their bellies will come off the floor and they'll start moving. And that's when we'll start feeding them their goat's milk and their gruel. And then from there, then they'll get up to the real food. We'll do food. Yep, the canned food. There'll be a lot of playtime. They like to play and party and sleep. And then throughout that next year, like Megan had mentioned, with kind of the steps of the training, we'll do some of the leash work, the confidence building, all the stuff we can kind of do here, we'll do on camera.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I look forward to watching that along with our webcam audience. And I want to thank the both of you for your time today and sharing some of your insights. I know, yeah, there's a lot to look forward to on the cam. So thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us anytime.
And thanks again to Megan and Devin from Northeast Canine for sharing their insights. If you want to learn more about their work, just go to Northeast Canine on their website, which is easy to find. It's northeastcanine.org. And of course, you can watch these service dogs anytime on explore.org. Longtime viewers of explore.org might recognize similarities with Northeast Canine and the Service Dog Project, which is located in Massachusetts. So both of those organizations work with and train the same breed of dogs to help people with similar needs. Yet training a service dog is really only part of the story of these amazing creatures. The work and commitment of service dogs is priceless for the people that they partner with. Hoodsy is a Great Dane service dog who was trained at the Service Dog Project. And to help us learn more about Hoodsy's work, I spoke with his human partner, who we know online as Hoodsy's partner. So thanks so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to our conversation and learning more about Hoodsy's work.
Certainly. I look forward to speaking with you.
So I guess I'll just start with the basics. What type of service work are Great Danes best suited for?
Well, he's my Great Dane service dog for balance and mobility, and that's where the size comes in very handy, particularly when I'm going up and down stairs. I don't need any sort of special harness on him for in-the-house work, which is something people don't often think about. And when I'm out in public with him, I do have a special harness that has a sort of a flat handle, and he helps me up and down stairs when we're going through Grand Central Terminal in New York City. He helps me get on and off of elevators, escalators. Sometimes I have trouble with taller curbs when I'm crossing a street if there's no what's called a curb cut in there. And generally for walking, I have a history of falling. And so his job also becomes preventing falls because my hand is always on him. Sometimes it's on the handle itself. Sometimes it's on his back or his neck as well. And so even a small touch on his back helps to orient me. So he prevents falls. If he were to miss a fall, which has happened just a couple of times, then his job becomes he braces and then he lets me grab onto him wherever I can and straighten myself up. He's actually able to allow me to hold on to him, and then he'll back up to pull me up. So those are his main jobs.
And I was wondering too, is Hoodsy always working, or does he get playtime and downtime throughout the day?
That's a great question. Above anything else, Hoodsy is a dog. And dogs do need downtime, even though his official harness, his working harness, isn't on him. He's actually got a really strong work ethic because Great Danes are a working breed. They have a mindset that they really need a job to do. So if his harness is off, whether he's running on a field outside or if I'm in the house and his harness is always off in the house, he knows if I need something, he's Johnny on the spot right next to me. And if I call him with any sort of urgency in my voice, he literally flies to me. He also generally tries to keep an eye on me. He doesn't really like to be in a separate room from me, or if we're in some sort of an office situation, he's generally lying right under the chair, right under the desk. Part of that is how he was trained, and the other part of that is simply his personality. So he is a dog. He does need a tremendous amount of playtime. He's a little bit of a higher energy Great Dane, which worked well for me because I tend to be a higher energy person. And he can keep up with what I ask him to do and then keep going with it. whether it's doing simple walking on the streets or helping me up a hill while we're walking, while, he's been trained to put some pull in his harness. So he helps me accelerate forward. So yeah, he is a dog, and he will work very well without his harness on.
Does Hoodsy go everywhere with you then, or are there places that, maybe are just kind of off limits or maybe too unsafe?
That's a great question. The only place that Hoodsy does not go with me is if I should ever be in the ICU at a hospital, which thank goodness I've never been. He can't go into any sterile environments in the hospital, and some hospitals would consider an ICU a sterile environment. Having said that, a lot of the Service Dog Project recipients do end up in the ICU, and they do seem to take it on a let's look at this individual situation.
Mhm.
And oftentimes they will allow the dog in there. If one has surgery, technically they can come into a recovery room, but depending on the individual hospital, they may not let them. I had a major knee surgery about a year and a half ago, and they said to me that they know that he's, technically could come into the recovery room, but they would prefer not because of the tight quarters in there. So I didn't push for that. I didn't need him. I had all the nurses taking care of me. And then the other time he's definitely not with me is should I have an MRI. And the reason for that is because of the noise. And even though I could put on his earphones for protection, they mute the outside world. It's just too dangerous of a situation for him. But otherwise, he's with me all the time. He will attempt to come into the bathroom with me at home, and I don't encourage that. Um, if I'm out and about and have to use the bathroom, he will almost always come into the stall with me. People always ask that question um, because it's too frightening for him to be on the other side of a door where he can't see me. But yes, he's allowed everywhere, and that is something that service dog recipients do come up to resistance fairly frequently, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's walking into an office that's not yours, anywhere, stores. Oftentimes they will stop you and ask you if you can please leave or come back without your dog, something like that. And in that situation, I gently explain to the people how the ADA requirements work and how, in fact, he can be in here. And I'll always say I don't want to create any fuss about it, but I try and use education because most people aren't aware of what the government protections allow people who travel with service dogs are.
And Hoodsy, when Hoodsy's working, he's identified, right? Does he always wear a special harness and vest in a vest
Yes,
during that time?
great question. He always wears his work harness, which is a very official looking black leather harness. Um, and there are patches all over his harness, truly all over. And they all say some variation of service dog or do not pet. Um, Having said that, people will approach us and put their hand right on top of Hoodsy. So I've become very adept at grabbing people's wrists
Hmm.
because
Okay.
Hoodsy does not appreciate when a stranger just reaches towards him and starts to pet him or puts their hands all over him. He was trained to actually look the other way when people approach and completely ignore people. So I try and respect his need for that. But people are generally so shocked to see a Great Dane in public, particularly as a service dog. So even though there are multiple patches on him that say do not pet, they say they don't see those patches. And I actually believe most of them because they're so excited to see this oddity. So, yeah.
And what lessons do you think we can learn from service dogs like Hoodsy, even if we don't have, one in our daily life?
Another great question. Things that we can learn about service dogs are a lot of service dog recipients will have an extensive conversation with a young family that has young children. Um, and I actually encourage it. You know, if somebody approaches us in a supermarket and says, "Oh, you know, can my children ask you some questions?" And I almost always say yes. You know, please fire away. I've got 5 minutes. I can talk with you. Because people in general don't know a lot about service dogs. I always try to let people know, whether it's children or adults, that you're not supposed to talk to service dogs. You're also not supposed to touch them. And if you feel the urge to touch them, you could probably ask the recipient if it's okay, but don't be discouraged if they say no.
Well, I just have one final question for you, I guess, and that is there anything else that you'd like people to know about Hoodsy or other service dogs, or your experience having a service dog in your life?
I can say that Hoodsy is a godsend for me. He has completely changed my life, um, given me the ability to go almost anywhere I choose. We fly, we're on all this public, we fly in airplanes, all sorts of public transportation, doing crazy things. And he has given me that ability. Whereas if I did not have him at my side, my cane or a walker wouldn't be enough for me. He's given me the confidence to travel out in public like that, because I don't need to be concerned anymore about falling or tripping, because that's a job for him and he takes pride in his work. Um, he's also given me the ability to laugh at myself. Whereas if I would have a fall before, it's very, very upsetting. And should I fall now, which really rarely happens, rarely happens, his silly face and what he does for me to try and settle me if I'm on the ground, just looking into his silly face, and he acts like a complete goober at that moment. He gets me to laugh and realize that this is not such a bad situation. And additionally, he provides just complete unconditional love like any pet dog does. And I have the joy of having that unconditional love 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with him. Yeah.
Well, this has really been a great conversation. I've learned a lot about service dogs, and I'm so glad
Okay,
that
great.
you have Hoodsy in your life. And
Thank you.
I'm not going to look at any dog the same way after this. So thanks so much for joining us.
Okay, great. Thank you. And everybody take care. I appreciate it.
And thanks again to Hoodsy's partner for joining us and taking her time to share her life experiences with us about what it's like to live with a service dog. If you want to follow Hoodsy's work, you can find Hoodsy on social media. Hoodsy is in many different places. Just look for Hoodsy Cone SDP on Blue Sky or Facebook or Instagram or Threads. That is HOODSIE, the word cone, like in an ice cream cone, and then the initials SDP. And again, on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, or Threads. Brian, we did have an audience comment that came in, not so much of a question, but just a comment about service dogs that I wanted to share. And this one came in from Chad, who wrote in and said, I have a Dane service dog, and he's amazing. He's my companion, my best friend and savior. He watches over me and keeps me safe and grounded. I know if not for him, I wouldn't be here. God sent me an angel. So thanks so much, Chad, for sending in that comment. I think dogs really have a special ability to enrich our lives. And Brian, both of us have been fortunate enough to have dogs in our lives. But I think it just seems like a relationship on another level for people with service dogs.
100%.
Well, yeah, that's a lot about dogs. I hope you learned quite a bit about service dogs and Great Dane service dogs in particular from those two interviews. Really fantastic information in there. Of course, Explore.org has a gigantic suite of live cameras all over the world. And since most of our cameras are in North America, and a lot of them are on bird nests, and it is springtime in North America. Let's get to our recurring segment, Egg Watch, and update you on what's been happening in our nests. So welcome to the April 7, 2025 edition of Egg Watch on Explore.org. There are a lot of updates, of course, to cover, as there are every time we do this segment. So let's get to it. Let's start with bald eagles. The Decorah North Nest in Decorah, Iowa there. Still, I guess the story of loss there and persistence in another way, because the parent eagles there are continuing to incubate their remaining egg, although it is well past the time when the egg can be considered viable at this point. So Mr. North and DNF may not have a successful brood this year. But along with our partner at the Raptor Resource Project, the Trempealeau Nest, the Trempealeau Eagles in Trempealeau, Wisconsin, Mr. and Mrs. T, we're on hatch watch this week for the first of their 3 eggs. So the next time we have our More to Explore program, hopefully we'll be looking at 3 eaglets in this nest. So start to watch for a pip starting around April 9 or so. I think that's when the oldest egg in that clutch is targeted to be within the hatch window itself. And then on the West Coast, out on the Channel Islands, the Fraser Point Nest and Santa Cruz Island with Andor and Cruz, they still have and are caring for their 2 eaglets. They're growing extremely rapidly. And then on the Sauce's Nest, Santa Cruz Island as well, Jack and Audacity continuing to raise their single eaglet there, looking big and getting fat, getting some real feathers on it already. And both of those cameras in the Channel Islands brought to us by our partner, the Institute for Wildlife Studies. With Canada geese heading back to Iowa, we've got 2 nests there, along with the Raptor Resource Project. 7 eggs actually in nest 1. One of them was just dumped into the nest by an interloping female goose on April 2nd. That's kind of a curious thing that geese do. They're just like, maybe I'll just pawn off my egg on some other nest and hope for the best. In this case, it's not going to work out because the egg was laid in that nest well after the others started to incubate, and which means that the clutch from the female who holds that nest as part of her territory, all of her eggs are going to hatch, maybe like as much as a week and a half or something before the 7th egg would hatch. So it was a risk that single female took. And this time it's just not going to happen to work out. But I think we could watch for those eggs in the nest 1 to start maybe hatching the week of April 14th. So next week, start to watch for that. And then nest 2, 6 eggs in there right now. They did lose originally 6 eggs. They lost 1 egg in there on April 2nd. So only 5 eggs in the nest right now. We're looking at hatch there on April, or 3rd week of April. And then moving back to birds of prey or our raptors, peregrine falcons, 3 nests right now, 4 eggs in each one of the nests at this moment in time. Great Spirit Bluff in La Crescent, Minnesota, Elaine and Newman, they have 4 eggs in there. The last one was laid just on April 4, so just a few days ago. And our partner there is Raptor Resource Project. Raptor Resource Project also is with us for the Castle Rock Falcons in Castle Rock, Wisconsin. Not in Castle Rock, Wisconsin, but not the town itself, but a place along the Mississippi called Castle Rock. That is with Faber and Elsa. 4th egg there was laid on April 5. And then with the Chesapeake Conservancy in downtown Baltimore, Maryland, the Chesapeake Peregrine Falcons there, Bo and Barb, they have 4 eggs. The most recent one was laid there on March 18, but the first one was laid on March 10. So hatch watch is, again, within a few days for the first egg that they laid in Baltimore, Maryland. So look for that egg to hatch sometime around April 9 or so. It's coming up really soon. And then great horned owls in Charlotte, Montana with the Owl Research Institute. Incubation there began, we think, around February 27 or so. And then there's the hatch of at least 1 egg on April 1, and we were just able to maybe get a couple of glimpses of that little fuzzball peeking its head up every once in a while. We don't know if there's more than 1 owlet in the nest, but at least one in there right now. And they start to branch and kind of move outside of the nest around 6 weeks of age. I think we're going to see a Wonky, who is the nickname for the female on that nest, continue to brood her single owlet at least for another week or so, maybe a little bit longer if there's some other younger owlets in the nest that we can't see right now. And then we have, of course, some other cameras to check out. We don't know how many eggs are in the great blue heron nest, but there's been a heron incubating there consistently. So incubation in this species lasts about 27 days or so, and then brooding by the parents can last 3 to 4 weeks after they first hatch. And that's brought to us by the Chesapeake Conservancy. And then spoonbills and alligator cam at the in St. Augustine, Florida. Not a single nest there, but lots of breeding birds in the trees there to watch. Spoonbills, herons, a bunch of different things. So check that out. It's a really cool camera. And give those alligators some love, because maybe they're not the prettiest animal, but they are actually beautiful in their own way. And we'll be following these and other nests in the coming weeks, including ospreys. So we're looking for the return of ospreys. In fact, in the Chesapeake Bay, they're returning and starting to nest right now. So be sure to go to explore.org anytime to watch the devotion of these birds to their eggs and offspring.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Mike. And speaking of all the birds, we've been, missing a hummingbird cam on explore.org. But Mike, I believe we have a sneak peek of a new hummingbird cam. If anybody's familiar with the Panama fruit feeder cam, we're going to have a new addition pretty close to it.
That's right. In the near future, look for explore.org to launch our new hummingbird feeder cam in partnership with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So this cam is located at Canopy Lodge, the same location as our fruit feeder cam. So if you're familiar with that camera, you like watching the tropical birds that visit and the migratory birds that visit that area, it'd be a similar suite of hummingbirds there, but maybe we'll get lucky and we'll see some different species as well, because Panama is home to more than 50 species of hummingbirds. And webcam viewers have already documented at least 10 hummingbird species spotted on the Panama fruit feeder cam. So again, I'm curious if we're going to see more species on this camera, because it's dedicated just to hummingbirds. I guess we're going to find out after this cam launches. We don't have a set date for that yet, but we wanted to tease you with that. It's coming up pretty soon.
Yep. And also coming up, we're going to give you a heads up of all the other live events coming up in the next week or two. And of course, we have our regular AfriCam shows. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we have the AfriCam show, which is like a virtual live safari. And of course, on Thursdays, we have the Wild Moment show, giving you all the best highlights from the weeks of the AfriCam cams. And Mike, you just had your first play-by-play for bald eagles, and we have another one coming up next week.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun. So yeah, we just launched our first one last Thursday. So we're going to be doing those every other week for the next several weeks, probably through May and into June, at least with our partners at the Raptor Resource Project. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, seeing some eaglets to talk about and other things. There's always seems to be drama at those nests. So yeah, tune in for that April 17th.
Yep. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I believe, Mike, you're going to be joining the Wild Moment show this week as well.
Yes, I will. So yeah, you can always join me to hear me talk about African animals. Actually, I lean on my co-host, which is has been Trishallo with AfriCam, because she's the expert. I'm there just to kind of help keep the conversation moving along. But it's always fun. I always learn a ton about African animals on that show.
Awesome. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. That is our show. And of course, I need to give a very special thank you to all of our moderators and camera operators for making everything happen. And of course, my co-host, Mike Fitz. Join us again for another episode of More to Explore on April 21. And until then, happy exploring.